Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from beautiful, especially when it's not cold and freezing, upstate New York, we have Tiffany Paltauf. Tiffany is the founder of Sleepy Pig Farm Animal Sanctuary. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, Fred. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on here.
Thanks for being here on Plant Your Seed. Can you tell us what inspired you to start your animal sanctuary?
Yes, I was 18 years old. I just graduated high school. I was kind of unsure, what I wanted to do. I always worked with animals. Back in high school, I worked with horses, even pigs and donkeys. So, I always, knew I wanted to do something with farm animals. I originally was always obsessed with pigs, but back then my mentality was that I could not, be a pig farmer because then I knew that I'd have to kill the pigs. So I kind of knew that in the back of my brain, which is really weird because I would never think of that right now, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved up to Vermont for a summer and I worked at a hotel, and I was hoping that I could become a dairy farmer because from what I thought, I didn't think that dairy farms, hurt cows. I thought, it was just, a nice setup. So I visited a dairy farm and my mind was just blown. It was a very small farm, and the cruelty that I saw was just unbearable. And I was in a complete shock. And I knew that I did not want to be a dairy farmer. And I actually came across a cement pit full of pigs and piglets living in absolute filth on this dairy farm. And that's when I actually ended up rescuing the runt of the litter. She was only 2 days old. Her name's Maybelle, and that kind of started everything. That's kind of, long story short, but, flashback, we're almost 6 years later. I worked like 5-6 jobs at once to sustain my small rescue back in Connecticut. And then I met my now husband, and now we operate Sleepy Pig Farm in New York at our larger farm.
Can you take us back to that dairy farm, to that day when here you are, a young kid, and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, and you're thinking you want to be a dairy farmer? What did you see on that dairy farm?
I saw a lot of cows living in confined spaces, smelled horrible. There was a farm store full of, beef products, and I was just very confused. I thought that, working for a dairy farm would be a kinder way to work with farm animals. And I just quickly realized that this was not right. And especially when I saw the pigs and noticed that, this dairy farm was also a working small farm. It was a very small farm, but like the cruelty that went on was more than I ever could have imagined, especially seeing the pigs. And a lot of the piglets were already deceased because of living in such filthy, small, crammed areas. So I think I was just very, very shocked, and I just knew that it was wrong.
How did you come across the pigs?
So it's funny. So I went into the farm store, and I was talking to the farm hand about working there, and I heard squealing in the back, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, are those pigs?" And she was like, "Yeah, look at them. There's these 2 small piglets in a box behind the counter." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, like, where are they?" And she was like, "Well, these are being sold. Like, there's a bunch in the back." And I was like, "Oh, can I go see them?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, of course." So that's when I obviously went to the back to go see all the pigs. And it was just like the smallest space. It was like probably 10 by 10 feet with probably like 15 pigs, like 4 giant mama pigs with probably a bunch of piglets. So, and I was all by myself, there was no one watching me. And I called my mom immediately. My mom lived in Connecticut at the time. So I was living by myself in Vermont. And I was like, "Mom, like, I can't believe like where I am. Like, there's all these piglets, and, some of them are dying and a lot of them are already dead." And she was like, "Tiffany, you need to take one," which is crazy because we had goats growing up, but like pigs and pigs was just like a different, we never had pigs. So I listened to my mom, and I worked out a deal with the farmer, and he let me take the runt of the litter, and I took her back home to my rental, and I got home and I just researched all night long. Like, I did not get off my computer. The pig was on my lap, and I did so much research. And, I put her in the bathroom, and I had, heaters because it was, beginning to be fall, and I just fell in love with this pig, and she completely changed my life.
How did she change your life?
She definitely gave me like a purpose. I just can't even explain it. I mean, if I never was there to begin with at that farm, I don't even know what I would be doing right now. So, rescuing Maybelle, we learned so much from her. It's not like you're rescuing a dog, rescuing a baby farm pig was just such a shock. I kept telling myself, she's the runt, Mom, like she's not going to get big. And today she's, 750 pounds. So she definitely grew, but she was just so smart, and it was just a whole new level of love that I've never known for, like, to give that to an animal. So, and she started everything. I always tell, like, we would not have saved the amount of animals that we have if it wasn't for Maybelle. So she started everything.
What was it that you saw in Maybelle that you decided that was the one that you wanted to save?
I noticed that she was the smallest one, and she was not able to really, like, nurse the most. I mean, you can tell a run, from a distance, they're half the size of the other piglets. And I don't know, I guess it was just like my gut instinct. I had a feeling that if I asked the farmer if I could take the run, maybe he would actually give her to me. And I'm surprised that he did, but he did. So I think it was just my gut instinct. She was the first one I was able to kind of just grab.
Can you tell us about that conversation with the farmer?
Yeah, so it was actually like the farm hand. So it wasn't actually like the main farmer. And I think they were just kind of shocked that I was even interested in taking one of them. And it was a very quick negotiation. They were like, oh yeah, take the runt. Like, the farmer will not care. Like, he's not going to be able to sell her. So they just kind of let me take her, which I think I was in shock when it happened. It all happened so fast. And I just put her in a box, put her in the front of the passenger seat of my car, and drove her home. And she squealed so loud the whole way home. So I think it was just a total shock. Like, that day completely changed my life. Like, I couldn't go work at the hotel that night. I had this newborn piglet. It was just, it all just happened so fast.
Why do you feel that she squealed all the way home?
I mean, I'm sure, she was probably confused. I feel awful that I took her from her mom, but there's just no way she would have survived. Many of her siblings were already dead. I've never seen a dead animal in my life before going there. And Maybelle was around her dead sibling. So I knew that, yes, I feel awful for Maybelle's mom. I still feel awful for her. I wish that I was able to take all of them. But I do think that, I'm sure she was confused. She was supposed to be with her mother, but unfortunately it wasn't safe. So I think she was really scared.
Can you take us back to getting back to your apartment with Maybelle, and you bring her out of the car? What happens next?
I brought her in, and I knew I was actually renting like a little cottage. And I knew that she probably needed a small area, so I chose the bathroom. I lined it with newspaper. I just did not know the first thing to do, which, looking back now, I would never tell anyone to just rescue a pig if they don't know what they're doing. But I was very scared, so I did so much research. I actually bottle fed her, which I know now is really not the smartest thing to do with pigs, but that's just kind of what my research was telling me, a little over 6 years ago. So yeah, it was just I think I was just like, my adrenaline was through the roof. This is like the craziest thing I've ever done. And I had no idea that it would completely change my life.
Now, you said that you bottle fed her and that wasn't the right thing. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so pigs in particular, they can aspirate very easily. It's very hard to find a proper nipple when bottle feeding piglets, that actually are exactly like their moms. So a lot of times people will bottle feed piglets and they will aspirate and, die. So knowing what I know now, I have two piglets in the house literally right next to me right now. They're being pan fed. It's just a lot safer. But then again, Maybelle was so young that I I just, I'm grateful that she was fine being bottle fed. You just hear a lot of horror stories of it not going as well.
So she's back at your apartment. You can't go to work. You're researching on your computer. You got a pig in your bathroom. What are you thinking at this point?
I think I was just like, oh my goodness, like my parents could not even believe it. Like my mom said, yeah, do it, but I was doing, saying that I should do it and actually doing it, two different things. So, I realized, all right, I think I have to go back home to Connecticut. Like this pig needs constant care. I can't like leave her alone during the day while I go to work. So I went back home to my parents' house with the pig. And they were not really thrilled about it at first. Um, so, you can imagine. It's not like I'm bringing a puppy home. Like I'm bringing home a farm pig that is used to living in the house and wants to live in the house. And by that point, she was getting bigger and bigger. She was probably 2 months old and she was getting pretty large. So, I brought her home and I'm grateful that my parents were super supportive, and my parents actually had a little barn on the property. So I kind of thought, all right, like worst case, she can live in that barn. I can set it up for her and we'll just have to figure out fencing and all that. So that was just a whole other, whole other challenge. But yeah, so I ended up bringing her home and I quit my job at the hotel. And then I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do.
What did you tell the people at the hotel when you quit?
I don't even really remember. I think they knew I was like obsessed with animals. Actually, I think I went back to work kind of after that for a couple hours, and I just kept showing them pictures of Maybelle, and how you're like so excited about getting something or someone or a pet or an animal, and like you just want to tell everyone about it. I was telling everyone about it, and looking back now, I'm sure they were like, "This girl is crazy." So, so then, yeah, I think I just told them, look, like I'm just going a different path. And they understood. So
When you got her home and your mom and dad were like, wait a minute, you were like, Mom, you told me to do this. Is that what you said?
yeah, I was kind of like, Mom, you're the one that said on the phone that I should take one. And she was like, I didn't know you actually take one. But my parents absolutely they fell in love with Maybelle, and they let me rescue another pig when I was living with them. So that's kind of when Petunia came. So Petunia is our other large farm pig that we have now. So they were very supportive and let me do it to a certain point. They had a little cottage on the property, and I met my now husband, Joe. We moved into the cottage and had, Maybelle and Petunia, the pigs. I rescued Petunia a few months after Maybelle because I knew Maybelle needed a friend. And then we just started rescuing a few more animals. And then my dad was kind of like, this is enough.
Dad put his foot down, huh?
Which I get. Yeah, he finally put his foot down after a couple goats and ducks and chickens.
Now, how did Maybelle get her name?
I don't know. I always loved the name Maybelle. Like, I just thought it was like such a beautiful name. So I think I always in the back of my head, I was like, if I ever have a farm animal, like the first one's gonna have to be Maybelle.
What is it about pigs that makes you so passionate?
They're just so overlooked. They are literally smarter than toddlers. They outsmart us every single day, and they're just so brilliant. And like they love some of our pigs. Like if you don't go right up to them and pet them, like they will nudge you and make you pet them. Like a lot of them want love and affection, and I just like that's why I'm just so passionate. I just want to share how incredible their personalities are and show everyone that they're really no different than a dog or a cat in all the ways that matter. And they're just so relatable. They really are.
Now, when you met Joe, was he like, oh, this is the pig girl, I'm going to start hanging out with her?
So I actually didn't tell him about
Keeping secrets right away.
I didn't even tell him.
That's a good way to start a relationship.
I know. I didn't tell him about Maybelle at first. I don't know why, but I was vegetarian at the time, and I think he was like, "Oh, why are you vegetarian?" And then I was like, "Oh, the animals." And then I slowly told him about Maybelle, and he was really supportive. You know, for my birthday, he put up fencing for Maybelle, and he was really supportive. And he actually was the one that actually thought of us becoming a nonprofit. So yeah, he's good. Thank God.
What does Maybelle mean to you?
Gosh, I just like everything. I love her so much. I don't know. I get really emotional because I know that she is one of our older pigs. So I just love her so much. She just means the world to me. Sorry, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional.
Well, she changed your life.
She's very special. Absolutely. Changed my entire life. She's just the greatest pig, honestly. They're all so special in their own way. But when you really have an animal that we have saved so many animals, and it's truly because of her. So yeah, I'm grateful every day that she's here. You know, we had a little bit of a scare. Over the summer, she was lame and didn't stand up. So, we rushed her to the hospital, and it was the scariest day of my life. I was so scared. And she has arthritis, and she's doing so well. And it's such a treat to have her.
How long do pigs usually live?
So I've heard so many different things. I hear 12 to 15 years. I've heard of a pig that lived to be 18, 19. It really depends. I mean, it's really hard with the farm pigs. We specialize in farm pigs, so they get so big so fast. And it can cause a number of issues. They have tiny little legs. So, it's hard for their bodies to keep up. And it's not their fault. So, we really just, it's very, very hard. They can just get a number of issues when they are bred to be so big so fast, which is so sad. But I always tell Maybelle, you better live to be 50.
When you think about that decision to pick up Maybelle, and just change your whole life, what sticks out in your mind?
I think it's just, I always just go with my gut, always. I never question my gut instinct. And I've always been, I never wanted to live, quote unquote, normal life. My parents were always you should go to college and, you love farm animals, Tiffany, maybe become a veterinarian or something. So I actually tried to be a vet, and it was just not for me. So, I never wanted to be like everyone else, I guess. It was I didn't even really know of animal sanctuaries or anything when we first started doing this. So, I really felt like the oddball. But I do think that's me, and that's just who I am.
So did you have any difficulties when you kind of started this farm sanctuary that just kind of started?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so for the first, I've had Maybelle and Petunia and a handful of other rescues. when I was 18. So, I was working like 3-4 jobs at once, just to take care of them and, make sure that they get proper care. But then, we were hit with a new challenge when my parents wanted to sell their house. I was 20 or 21, and I was kind of panicking because, we could not afford to buy a farm in that area. And I really wanted to stay close to family. It's always been really important to me. And, I just didn't know what to do. Everyone was telling me, Tiffany, like, you've done a great thing for a couple years. I think it's time to put these animals at another animal sanctuary. It's going to be great. And I just was like, no, like, I can't do that. Like, I promised all these animals that, like, they will be with me for the rest of their life. And, like, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. And, the bird, like, I wouldn't want to put that on any other sanctuary. And that's when we found a really good situation in Connecticut. We found a cottage with some land, and our landlord was he's still like the nicest guy ever. The family's so kind to us. And they let us stay there for like a reduced rate if we helped out around the property. And he let us build our farm outside of the cottage. So I was still able to stay in the town that I grew up in with the animals around my family. So that was really challenging. And then that's kind of when my husband was like, let's start an Instagram account. Like, let's, see if people will enjoy the animals as much as we do online. And it just kind of took off from there. And then we filed to be a nonprofit, and then we finally bought our own farm. So I think, a lot of people think that, oh, I really want to run an animal sanctuary. Like, I'm going to buy a farm and blah, blah, blah. Like, it really does take so much time. And like, we went to an animal care conference at Farm Sanctuary. Like, you're running an actual business in order to care for these animals. So I just think, there's so many challenges when running a nonprofit, like funding and just like the manpower, woman power to take care of all these animals. It's really hard. And, in a way you are sacrificing a lot of things. My husband and I, we probably will never be able to go on vacation, far away from the farm because it's so much work and it's so hard. So yeah, I think that it's just there's nonstop challenges. Every single day there are challenges.
How difficult is it to run a sanctuary day to day and have to work as the social media manager as well?
It's really hard. Some days I'm like, oh, I don't even want to post on social media. And then, engagement will be down and we'll lose, donations will be low that month. And, then I find a way to really love posting online. And I do love sharing the animals online. I mean, that is the whole point, honestly. Like, due to COVID, we don't do tours or anything like that. So in order for people to really get to know the animals and hopefully inspire a more compassionate lifestyle, it's really all through social media. So it's hard. It's a full-time job in itself, honestly. It's really hard. I always thought like, oh, social media like would be so fun. And it's really, it's a job. So it's a lot of work.
What would you tell someone who wanted to start a sanctuary, and what about it is important?
I would tell them that, I would volunteer at an animal sanctuary through every single season, because someone could volunteer in the summer or the spring and be like, oh, this is great. This isn't that bad. But if you're volunteering during a snowstorm or during a rainstorm or, you're out late taking care of the animals, like it's a total different situation. So I would definitely tell people that. I would also tell people that talk to every single animal sanctuary founder that you possibly can, because that's kind of what I did. And you get so many different perspectives, and the founders are very honest because we don't want to see other small sanctuaries, take in animals and then have to rehome all of them. And, we want everyone to succeed. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say.
Can you tell us something about pigs that ordinary people don't know?
I have to pretend I'm an ordinary person for a second. They're so smart and they're very clean. very, very clean animals. Like they won't go to the bathroom where they sleep. They usually have like a corner in the pasture where they'll go to the bathroom. And that's what really breaks my heart when I saw Maybelle as a piglet living literally in the feces. I just know now that like our pigs in our care would never want to lay in their own feces. Like they love to be clean. They love to have dry bedding. Like they really are just, they're so smart. And they're very, very clean animals. A lot of people think that pigs are dirty and gross, but they're really the opposite.
Take us back to that day when you found Maybelle. Were you vegan?
No.
When and how did you transition to a plant-based diet?
Yes, I wasn't vegan at all. I actually used to be that girl that literally made fun of my vegetarian friends. So I feel horrible about that. I was not vegan. I remember taking Maybelle home that night. And then the next morning I was like, oh, I'll go to Dunkin' Donuts down the road and grab my normal sausage, egg, and cheese. I'll never forget. Every morning I'd go to Dunkin' Donuts down the road, get a sausage, egg, and cheese. And I was actually on my way to Dunkin' Donuts. And I was like, it finally hit me. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, I can't eat sausage. Like, I'm pretty sure sausage is a pig. Like, I honestly didn't even know what animal I was eating. Like, I didn't even know what the sausage was, which is crazy. And that's when I finally was like, oh my God, I cannot eat sausage. Like, I can't eat pigs anymore. Like, this is Maybelle. Like, I can't do it. So I went vegetarian. And then a couple months later, I finally went vegan. I just binge watched all the Netflix documentaries. And I think I lived off like vegan grilled cheeses for like a year because I just did not know what I could eat. So yeah.
You didn't go with peanut butter the whole year?
I didn't.
Or apples?
I know. My husband always makes fun of me. He's like, you literally lived off vegan grilled cheeses for like a year. I was like, I know. I don't know how to explain it.
Now, what was that realization like when you're driving down the road and you like, I want a sausage and egg and cheese. I'm going to get that. And then you're like, what? What was that like?
Yeah. I think I was just very like curious because I was like, wait a minute. Like I've been going my whole life eating pigs and eating animals. And it really just inspired me to do a lot of research. I was like, what is going on? Like, why is all this happening to animals? Like I already know from what I saw that farm animals like Maybelle on that small family farm, it was complete animal cruelty. And like, why is this so hidden? And I just really, it inspired me to really do the homework and do research. And that's kind of, yeah, I think I was just like, how was I not aware of any of this?
What do you think it takes for people to understand the connection between the animal and the food?
I do think that when you're really around that type of animal or like seeing how they're really no different than a dog or a cat, I feel like if it's not for the animals, like you're not going to stay vegan. I do know a lot of people that, have been around farm animals and they don't make the connection. I do think that it's something that you need to accept in yourself, that like you need to be more educated on this. Because a lot of people, there's a lot of farmers out there, obviously, that are not vegan, but they're around animals. We live in a very farm heavy town and, farmers will tell me, oh, I know pigs are so smart, but like they still continue to eat it. So I think everyone's trying to figure out like how people can gain the connection. And I truly just think that if you spend a day with some pigs on the sanctuary, like I just don't know how you could eat them.
Did you notice any changes after you went vegan, either physically or mentally?
So I wasn't the healthiest vegan right off the bat. As I said, I lived off like vegan grilled cheeses. But when I started to kind of explore and, eat more like whole plant foods, I definitely felt so much more clear and so much more energy. And I just wanted everyone to feel like that. So, I was always trying to like convince my parents and friends, like, you will feel so much better. And I had actually really horrible eczema, and all of that went away like almost immediately. So, my skin just got so much clearer.
Now, you mentioned that you ate vegan cheese sandwiches for a long time. Is there anything else that you struggled with when you first became plant-based?
I don't think so. I think that honestly I would have just eaten dirt, honestly, because I just didn't want to consume animals. Like, I feel like if your priority is animals, like, it's easy per se, at least for me. I mean, I didn't really know what I could eat, but I definitely knew what I could not eat anymore. So I think just the most challenging part in general is being around people that eat animals, especially now because, my husband and I were obviously vegan. So we have a whole vegan, our whole home is vegan, of course. So, when family's up here, I really need to, let them know, like, just so like, for respect of the animals, like, no animal products. But, when they want to go out to lunch or something, like, I know what they're eating. So I think that is the most challenging part because it's just hard.
Now, what about your friends? Did you have difficulties with them?
Yeah. So, I mean, once I really had the animals, even when we were so small, when I was younger, I just kind of fell out of, connecting with my friends from high school. There just wasn't much to really connect with. They all took different paths. Most of them went to, a university, and, they all like have an apartment and live in a city. So there just really wasn't much for me to talk to them about because all I really wanted to talk about was the animals, and, what my pig did that day, so it was hard to connect with people, for sure.
Did you get any strange reactions when you started to tell people that you were vegan?
Definitely, even from like cousins, I was always like the family joke at dinner. A lot of people made fun of me. My family, my sisters and brothers, I love them, obviously. They made fun of me, in the beginning, just because they just didn't, it's just like classic, make fun of the vegan girl, So yeah, it was really hard. It was really hard being like the only person too. Like, I just knew that like, this is what I'm so passionate about and this is who I am now. And being able to like really stand your ground was pretty hard.
Can you give us an example of how they made fun of you and how did that make you feel?
Yeah. So when I first had Maybelle, I went back home to Connecticut. So I'm at my parents' house now with Maybelle. I cared for a horse down the road. And down the road, there was also a giant pig who was named Petunia. This is a different Petunia, but I named our Petunia now after this girl. So I was taking care of this horse. I knew of a giant pig. She's got to be at least 500 pounds, locked in a stall. And I always asked, can we like let her out for a little bit into the pasture? And the farmers were always like, no, like she'll run away. Like you'll never get her. And I was like, okay. So every time I was there, I spent a little extra time and I would be with this pig Petunia. And I'd rub her belly and I was just like in love with this pig. And I didn't really know, what I know now. And I didn't really know that they would hurt the pig. But I went to Texas to visit family, some cousins, came back home, and I found out that Petunia was shot, that they killed her and that they ate her. And I was horrified. I don't think I've ever cried so hard. I was so upset. And I went home and all of my brothers and sisters were wearing bacon shirts and just like laughing at me. And I wanted to just crawl into a hole. Like I felt like no one understood me. Like I was so upset. And my family literally bought shirts that said bacon on it and were laughing at me. So that's something that I don't even think my siblings even remember, but like it's so ingrained in my brain. And I'll just never forget it.
How did you feel when that happened?
Horrified. I was just horrified. Like all I wanted to do in that moment, honestly, was to like go see Petunia down the road and rub her belly. But like I couldn't even do that. And I just felt like so I was so upset. I was so upset. I did not talk to like my family for days. It was really, really hard.
Now, have you struggled with your family relationships?
So, in the beginning I did. So when we first had the pigs at my parents' house, I told my parents, look, I know you guys are not vegan like I am, but like, please, we have farm pigs here that are all rescued. Like, can we please just not eat pigs anymore? Can you please just like not have pork products in the house? And my mom was immediately on board. My dad was like, yeah, of course. But I remember one day I opened up the oven to see what they were making, and my dad had made this, I don't even know what they call it, but it was literally just like meatloaf, like covered with bacon strips.
Mm.
And I was like, what? I was like, what? And I immediately was like, I'm sure it's turkey bacon, even though obviously it's not good either. But I went into the fridge and I thought it was pig, and I was horrified. I ran up to where my pigs were, Mabel and Petunia, and I went in there and I was just sobbing. And that's when my dad's friend actually came down the driveway and saw me upset. And he was like, Tiffany, like, I'm vegan too. And I was like, what? And he was like, I understand how upset you are. And his name's Ray. He's actually a really close friend of ours now. So it felt really nice to be understood by someone and not feel alone. But, family-wise, it took them a really long time to really understand what we do. And it's still hard. Sometimes, they still don't fully get it, but they're definitely way more supportive now. It just took some time.
What are your goals for the future of Sleepy Pig Farm?
That's a great question. Our goal is to keep rescuing animals and sharing their stories and hopefully impact the public to go vegan. I picture myself as a large sanctuary one day. So obviously taking it day by day. Right now it's hard. I mean, it's my husband and I. We have some incredible volunteers that help us, a couple days a week. But for the most part, it's just my husband Joe and I. So whenever we get bigger, we're obviously gonna need more help. So I definitely picture us being a large sanctuary and being around for forever.
How do you go about getting volunteers to help at the sanctuary?
So that's really funny. So it has been very hard because we live in a very, it's a small town. It's also a very spread out town. So, it's hard to kind of find people that live around here that want to help. But I actually found our volunteers at the supermarket. I saw this really tall guy at the grocery store, and he was wearing a shirt, and it was like "Friends Not Foods" with like a cow on it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I have to say something.
Wait a minute, there's a vegan.
I know. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I will never forgive myself if I don't say hi to this guy, because it's like, I've never met another vegan that lives near us, so I had to say something. And I introduced myself, and he probably thought I was crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, are you a vegetarian? And he was like, yeah, I'm vegetarian. I was like, that is so cool. And told him about the farm, and he emailed us that night, and he was like, my wife and I would love to come help. And I was like, of course. So they came, and they started off being vegetarian, and now they're both vegan, which is really awesome. And we got really, really lucky with them, I will say. Like, they're so dedicated, and they love the animals so much. So, obviously we're always trying to find more volunteers as we take in more animals. So, social media has been helping a little bit with that. But right now, Jen and Norm are our only, steady volunteers. So, yeah, it's not easy to find them.
What is one thing that's exciting you right now at Sleepy Pig Farm?
I'm really excited about our pig expansion project. So we are in the process of fencing off an additional 5 acres dedicated solely for the pigs, which I'm super excited about. I'm excited to give them so much more space and land and, repair the pig barn and do a bunch of upgrades. So I think like projects get me really, really excited. I love to plan them out, and I love, my husband and I, it's just so fun. Every night we go out and we're like, all right, should we like do the fencing here? Maybe here should be the barn, and, making the place perfect for the pig specifically it's fun for me.
Do you have a habit or a hack or a tip that helps you stay on track with your plant-based diet?
Yeah. So I think like our main thing is my husband and I, we need to have enough energy for the whole day to just keep going. So, I actually went raw vegan a couple years ago, and I felt incredible. I had so much energy, but long term, it just wasn't practical for me. So I actually kind of I do a lot of food combining. So, I usually eat fruit like first in the morning because I can't be super full and I can't feel really heavy because, when I had breakfast, I'm outside majority of the day doing a lot of farm chores. So I stick with a lot of fruit in the morning, and then I kind of stick with food combining throughout the day. And it has really helped my energy. And, of course, sometimes, we will get like vegan pizza and, eat junk food, of course. But for the most part, in order for me to be the best for the animals, I have to make sure that I have so much energy. So we do drink a lot of coffee too, though. That's for sure.
What documentary do you recommend to people who are transitioning to a plant-based diet?
So recently I feel like Game Changers just was super impactful. I always share the animals, and, I can only do that as much as I can. But when it comes to health-wise, I definitely think Game Changers was incredible. It actually made my husband's family all vegan. So that was really cool. So I always tell people, watch Game Changers. And then, of course, I've seen all the really, really sad ones, Dominion and all of that. And I do think that sometimes people need to see that, but sometimes, if you're looking for not a very, emotional stance on veganism, I definitely think Game Changers works really well.
Finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
I think before I was vegan, I think I was very lost. As I was saying, like I didn't have my path in life. And so I definitely think before I was vegan, I was very lost. And now that I am vegan and now that I run the animal sanctuary, I feel very fulfilled. And I just feel like I'm doing my part, if that makes sense. Very fulfilled now.
It's such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. What is the best way for people to follow and support you on Instagram, the web, and social media in general?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to talk to you. So you can find our animal sanctuary account, Sleepy Pig Farm. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Our website is just, www.spsanimalsanctuary.org. But if you just look us up, Sleepy Pig Farm, you can find us. So, thank you so much.
Thanks again, Tiffany, for being on Plant Your Seed. Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.